Hello guys and welcome back to Thailand Adventures with Dan. For anyone that has clicked on this video and not seen part 1 yet, then please click up here and go straight to part 1 before watching part 2. Okay guys, we're going to continue with Alan Khan's story, A Friend's Dying Wish, part 2. A few days later, Vic rang me to say he had organised his own funeral and paid all the costs so as to avoid a burden on his mum. He also asked me if I could do something for him. I replied, "Of course, anything, just name it." He asked, "On my next trip to Pattaya, would I go to the hotel we both stayed at every time, the Sabai Inn, and ask the manager to retrieve the piece of luggage that Vic used to have stored in the storage room near the elevators?" Because he stayed at the Sabai Inn exclusively, they stored his bag between trips. This would save him bringing extra stuff in his regular airline checked luggage. He said that last time he had left a spare wallet and a pair of jeans that he packed in the bag. He thought there was about 15,000 baht in the wallet. He suggested I should use some of the money to ring the bell for him at his favourite bar on 2nd Road opposite the Big C. He said there would be some other valuable stuff that I should distribute for him among his Thai friends at the bar and bring back for his mum anything I felt she could use and that I would know best. Storing the bag was really convenient as he often just had carry-on bags on the flight. I agreed to this request and said that I would stay at the same hotel as they also knew me well from our previous visits, and this would probably make the task much easier. He then asked another favour, in that whilst I stay in Pattaya, would I draw out his money from the Bangkok bank in Pattaya. He said he had about 100,000 baht and would give me his ATM card, etc. when he saw me next, and that I could withdraw up to 20,000 baht per day. The plan was set. After that, we had many regular phone calls talking about old times, but the very next time we met was in a hospice for the dying in Wyong on the Central Coast. I had received a phone call from his mum telling me that he had not long to live, so I arranged to go there the following Saturday. Whilst it was much easier and more convenient to just drive my car for the 60-minute journey, I decided to go by bus, train and taxi as a somewhat pilgrimage trip, which would give me time to reflect during the 3 hours it would take to get there. It seemed the more respectful way. I don't know why we do these things, it just felt the right way at the time. After arriving at the hospice and before I had gone into the room, the nurse took me aside to tell me he was gravely ill and not expected to last much longer, and that he had been down in the dumps all week, but when he knew I was coming, he just perked right up and was just so happy. I then went in to find him, sitting up, cheerful and obviously happy to see his old mate. We spoke for over 2 hours, and when I was about to leave, he handed me an envelope which contained his passport, ATM card and bank book, along with his PIN and a key to his bag in storage. I just whispered, "I will take care of it." When I got home several hours later, the phone rang, and yes, it was his mum. Vic had passed away just a few hours after I had left the hospice. I just choked and was speechless. How lucky to see him when I did, or had he been waiting for me the whole time? I reflected on those thoughts over the next coming days. I attended his funeral, and of course it was a sad affair. I stood out amongst his relatives and felt a little out of place. After all, I was his travelling mate who took him to that den of inequity known as pattaya. I wondered what they thought of me. Then again, who took who? Such is life. We had nothing to be ashamed of, just two good mates with a sense of humour, having fun and spending money hand over fist, all for a good cause. The next few days I decided to plan my trip back to Pattaya to fulfill the wishes of my mate. As I said before, I had no real intention of ever returning to Pattaya, but now I felt I had a duty to my friend. Now I cannot exactly remember the exact month, but when I eventually got back to Pattaya and checked into the Sabai Inn as usual, I spoke to the night duty manager and asked him for Vic's suitcase in storage. I showed him Vic's passport and death notice, along with his ATM card, etc., so as to legitimise my request. I was shocked to hear the reply, no, followed by several excuses, including the fact they needed an authority from Vic, or a letter from his mother or lawyer, which was possible. I explained it's just his bag of clothes and some items he wanted to take back to his mum, and that we always travelled together and that we always stayed here at the same hotel. I wasn't that they did not know me, but he was insistent, and thinking back on it, he really wasn't completely wrong and probably had the ideal excuse. But what followed after was a nightmare for days. It seemed hopeless as each day I made several attempts to get the bag, even to have the tourist police and the Australian embassy intervene on my behalf. However, those were idle threats, and they knew it. They probably figured that they could outlast me, and in the back of their minds think that after I leave to go back to Australia, now Vic had actually died, that they could see if there was anything of value in the bag to keep for themselves. I continued my visits to the Bangkok Bank ATM on 2nd Road near Alcazar nightclub and withdrew 5 lots totaling 100,000 baht. During the nights that followed, I felt very disillusioned about the suitcase, but trying to stay positive. I felt that it would all be fine, and somehow I could think of a way. After all, failure is not in my DNA. I didn't sleep very well, and I kept thinking of Vic and what I should try next, often dreaming about the whole episode. I dream every night as a rule anyway, often saying to people that I live another life in my dreams. These dreams were no different as they appeared so real in the moment. On my second to last night, it was around 3 a.m. and I awoke from a deep sleep. I thought I had heard some knocking on my door or the wall between the room next door. I got up to investigate. Nothing to see through the peephole, so I slowly opened the door. I left the door open a while as I was still groggy from just being woken up. Nothing to be seen. Went back to bed, but I stayed awake for some time, wondering whether it was my imagination or what. Thoughts of Vic came flooding to my overactive mind as I contemplated what tomorrow would bring and whether I had any new ideas on how to get the bag. I was slowly running out of options. In the morning, as I was preparing to shower, I noticed an aroma like a type of aftershave smell in the bathroom area. I thought that it was weird, as I don't bring it with me as I am allergic to perfumes and aftershaves because of my asthma and breathing problems. I had not noticed it before or any previous visits, and there was no explanation I could think of. But what was to come next is something I just cannot explain away as a coincidence. Okay guys, that was part 2 of Alan's story, A Friend's Dying Wish. Click here for the final part.